Good morning, and a welcome to Horizon Unitarian Universalist Church and our online worship service. I am the Reverend Laura Brandis, minister of this congregation, and I come to you very virtually this morning to welcome you to church. I am not leading worship, but I wanted to welcome you. I wanted you to know that we welcome all of you seekers after justice, seekers after a word of comfort in these uncertain times. We welcome you to our online worship experience. There is always a lot going on at Horizon, so I encourage you to visit our website, horizonuu.org, to see what is the latest Zoom experience that we are offering you. Please do stay up to date with all that we are doing. You can look at our website and our Facebook page and know about the many programs that we offer. And then please do ready yourself for the worship experience that we are offering to you this morning, knowing that even in this virtual space, we can provide a time that takes you out of normal time, that can take you into sacred time. So breathing now with me, imagining breathing together, we enter into sacred time.
Greetings to you all. I am so happy you are here and so glad to be with you as well. I am the Reverend Rob Moore, Horizon's affiliated community minister, spiritual director, and retreat leader. Today's service is about contemplation and action. So during our service today, I invite you to let every pause for breath, for reflection, for music, be an opportunity and an invitation to be still, to accept fully what is, and to be all of who we are in this moment. So let us begin now and take one more mindful breath. A deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth, maybe with an audible exhale. Let this breath draw our attention to this time and this place, whenever and wherever you are, and where you find yourself in this moment. And may we repeat as necessary while we continue our worship service today. And now hear these words from John O'Donoghue, Irish poet and priest. Awaken to the mystery of being here, and enter the quiet immensity of your own presence. Have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. Receive encouragement where new frontiers beckon. Respond to the call of your gift and the courage to follow its path. Let the flame of anger free you from all falsity. May warmth of heart keep your presence aflame. May anxiety never linger about you. May your outer dignity mirror an inner dignity of soul. Take time to celebrate the quiet miracles that seek no attention. Be consoled in the secret symmetry of your soul, and may you experience each day as a sacred gift woven around the heart of wonder. In this spirit, I invite you to light your chalice where you are, as I light our chalice of our heritage. And in this spirit, come, let us worship. Please join me now in saying together the words of our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth, thus do we covenant together. And now let us take a pause to practice loving kindness with music and our opening hymn, Filled with Loving Kindness.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
Today, we're going to hear how one person could make a difference in her entire country. Her name was Wangari Maathai, and she was a protector of the environment. She was a university professor. She served in the highest levels of her country's government, and she won a Nobel Peace Prize. So let's hear her story now. A Tiny Seed, the story of Wangari Maathai, by Nicola Ridgick and Maya Marstak, used with permission. In a village on the slopes of Mount Kenya in East Africa, a little girl worked in the fields with her mother. Her name was Wangari. Wangari loved being outside. In her family's food garden, she broke up the soil with her machete. She pressed tiny seeds into the warm earth. Wangari's mother and grandmother taught her that her ancestors rested in the shade of the trees. Her favorite time of day was just after sunset. When it got too dark to see the plants, Wangari knew it was time to go home. She would follow the narrow paths through the fields, crossing rivers full of life as she went. Wangari was a clever child and couldn't wait to go to school, but her mother and father wanted her to stay and help at home. When she was 7 years old, her big brother persuaded her parents to let her go to school. And she liked to learn. Wangari learned more with every book she read. She did so well at school that she was invited to study in the United States of America, and Wangari was excited to go. She wanted to learn more about the world. At the American University, Wangari learned many new things and many new ways of being. She studied plants and how they grow. She received a degree in biology, and she remembered the whole time the country where she grew up. She remembered playing games with her brothers in the shade of the trees in the beautiful Kenyan forests. The more she learned, the more she realized that she loved the people of Kenya. She wanted them to be happy and free. She wanted the women to have the same freedoms she had in the United States. The more she learned, the more she remembered her African home. When she had finished her studies, she returned to Kenya, but her country had changed. Huge farms stretched across the land. The government sold much of the land to big companies, and those companies cut down the forests for timber and cleared the land for coffee plantations. The trees were gone, the soil was gone, the streams had dried up. The land was destroyed, and there was no wood to make cooking fires, and the people were poor, and the children were going hungry. Wangari knew just what to do. She taught the women to plant trees from seeds. The women sold trees and used the money to look after their families. The women were very happy. Wangari helped them to become more powerful in their society and provide for their families. Some businesses got angry that the trees became more important than their business. They paid a police officer to put Wangari in jail. Wangari made friends with other women in the jail, and when they were released, they helped her plant more trees. Wangari realized that she needed more support, and she began to travel the world to spread her message. More people listened to her. She is elected to Kenya's parliament as Minister of the Environment and continued to plant trees. As time passed, the new trees grew into forests and the rivers started flowing again. Wangari's message spread across Africa. She started what is still known as the Green Belt movement, named after the green strips of tree seedlings which began growing across the brown clear-cut fields in Kenya. And today, millions of trees have grown from Wangari's seeds. Some say 40 million at the minimum. Wangari had worked hard. People all over the world took notice and gave her a very famous prize in 2004. It's called the Nobel Peace Prize, and she was the first African woman ever to receive it. Wangari understood patience, persistence, and commitment to the tiny seed of an idea which would grow into a movement which not only changed the landscape of Kenya, but the status of women in her country and improved everyone's lives. In her acceptance speech for the Nobel Peace Prize, Wangari stated, "I always felt that our work was not simply about planting trees. It was about inspiring people to take charge of their environment, the system that governed them, their lives, and their future."
Now we come to the practice of giving. Cultivating a generous heart and a generous spirit is a key part of a contemplative practice and life. One part of that is the giving we do for the causes that touch our heart and to the mission, ministry, and operation of our church home, Horizon Unitarian Universalist Church. For our third Sunday Share the Plate recipient, we are blessed to partner with UU The Vote. UU The Vote is a large-scale decentralized campaign in moving our UU faith communities into new or deeper action and partnerships by leveraging our people and our passion and focusing them where they can have the greatest impact. The work of UU The Vote national team is to amplify the work already happening on the ground, equip each other with the skills and tools, coordinate our common activities, and to channel resources to parts of the country where the imbalance between the work that is needed and the resources that are available is the greatest. UU The Vote will use your contributions to offer organizing grants, funding fellowships for individuals and congregations, and deploying paid organizers. As always, you can donate online at horizonuu.org, and we thank you for these gifts for this organization and your continued gifts toward the mission and ministry of this church. Love is the doctrine, the teaching of this church. And it is with this principle that we are present with one another through our joys and our sorrows, and especially in the way these things tend to arrive all at once in one tangled blessing we call life. We are also present to the joys and sorrows of this world, knowing how interdependent we are with all of creation. In that spirit, we hold in our hearts and minds the people of Beirut as they continue to mourn and to recover from the deadly blast of a couple of weeks ago. And we continue to pray for all those affected by COVID-19 and all those who have died and suffered during this pandemic. We also hold in our hearts Marcia Rains and family. Marcia's sister, Linda Walters, passed away unexpectedly this week from a massive heart attack. Marcia and her family will miss her so much, and we will all miss her passionate work rescuing animals. We also continue to hold Randy Lisbona close as he continues to recover from a mountain bike accident and the broken bones that resulted. Beyond these we have named aloud, let us honor those joys and sorrows that remain unspoken, yet live in the silence of our hearts. Let us honor the stories of heartache, of hope, beauty, and loss. For all those places that need forgiveness, may forgiveness be given and received. For the division in our nation, in our families, and in our lives, may we be restored to a new wholeness. And for the many blessings of our lives, may our hearts be overcome with gratitude. As I light the candle, let us feel the ways we are connected to each other and to all beings, knowing that what affects one affects us all. May it be so. I invite you now to join me in a time of meditation and silence. So let us find a comfortable place from wherever you are. If you're in a chair or sofa, just kind of find that posture of comfort and support. Once you find that place of balance where your spine and your neck and your head are all in alignment, you may close your eyes if you wish. And let us take a couple of deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Already, just a couple of deep breaths allows the body to relax and release just a little bit. And now just let your breath fall to its natural rhythm. Just a gentle in and out. No need to push it or extend it, just your own natural rhythm. I'm going to go through a quick body scan meditation. So as your breath falls to its natural rhythm, draw your attention around your body. Notice any places of tightness or tension. Perhaps perhaps on the opposite end, places of spaciousness, of looseness, where your body is feeling rested and relaxed. So just kind of start at the bottom and work your way up. And just notice any place that you are aware of. And as you are scanning your body, your mind, of course, may wander. Thoughts may arise. Emotions, feelings may arise along with what you notice in your body. Just notice those as well and let them go. Send them on their way. If you notice yourself getting carried away by a thought or a feeling, just as soon as you notice, just bring yourself back to your natural breathing rhythm and noticing the sensations in your body. Now let's draw our attention to our heart area and just notice any tension or tightness or spaciousness around your heart. Again, no judgment, not good or bad, just noticing what's there. And now let's draw our attention to our skin, the largest organ of our body. So delicate to burns and scrapes and bruises. So strong as a barrier, keeping out disease and virus and bacteria. So important in this time. So important in our cooling, especially in this heat. And now reflect on the particular skin and skin tone that you are in. What does that skin and skin tone mean to you? What wounds or disadvantages or advantages and benefits that your particular skin offers you? Just reflect on that for a brief moment. Notice what thoughts and feelings arise as you reflect on your skin. And in this moment, let's just let those thoughts and feelings go as much as you are able. Perhaps write them down later for further reflection. But for now, just let them go. Send them on down the stream of your thoughts and your feelings. And now as we come to the end of this meditation, let's take another couple of deep breaths just to transition us back out. So in through the nose, out through the mouth. And return to this time and this place. Open your eyes once again. Another deep breath in and out. So may it be, and amen. Our reading today comes from Father Richard Rohr's Daily Meditations. This one is from July 27th, 2020. As we come to know our soul gift more clearly, we almost always have to let go of some other gifts so we can do our one or two things with integrity. Such letting go frees us from always being driven by what has been called the tyranny of the urgent. Soon, urgency is a way of life, and things are not done peacefully from within. What if we choose to simply do one or two things wholeheartedly in our lives? That is all God expects and all we can probably do well. Too much good work becomes a violence to ourselves and finally to those around us. The gospel is not about being nice. It is about being honest and just, and the world doesn't like these two things very much. Our job is to learn how to be honest, but with love and respect. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. taught us that before we go out to witness for justice, we have to make sure that we can love and respect those with whom we disagree. Imagine the surrender necessary for those who have been oppressed for hundreds of years to continue to work peacefully for justice. Frankly, I don't know how anyone can do it without contemplation. How do we get to that deep place where we do not want to publicly expose, humiliate, or defeat our opponents, but rather work, as Dr. King said, for win-win situations? When we are hurt, we want to hurt back. When we are put down, we want to put down the opponent. This is our ego's natural defense mechanism. We all move toward the ego, and we even solidify it as we get older if something doesn't expose it for the lie that it is. Not because it is bad, but because it thinks it is the whole and only thing. We change from inside, from the power position to the position of vulnerability and solidarity, which gradually changes everything. True contemplation is the most subversive of activities because it undercuts the one thing that normally refuses to give way: our natural individualism and narcissism. Once we are freed from our narcissism that thinks we are the center of the world, or that our rights and dignity have to be defended before other people's rights and dignity, we can finally live and act with justice and truth. Last June, Reverend Laura, our senior minister here at Horizon, had this to say: "Whatever you choose to do with your one wild, precious life is enough, because you are enough. It is enough to go to a protest. It is enough to stay home and send money to Black Lives Matter. It is enough to take shelf-stable food items to MetroCrest Food Pantry. It is also enough to stay home and contribute what you can financially. It is enough to vote." So as I listened to this in that moment, I felt a visceral easing of tension, of questioning in my mind, the easing of the tension in my body. And then in the next moment, actually the same moment, I also heard a clear and distinct voice saying, "Is it really though? Is it really enough?" And so welcome to my world, and maybe your world, that many of us face when we are trying to take in the suffering of the world and trying to figure out what we can do and what is best for us to do. It's that push and pull of self-care and responding to a hurting world, of putting on your mask first before assisting others, of contemplation and action. So in my training as a spiritual director in the last few years, I've started to look for a contemplative approach to most issues that I am questioning where my action belongs. And so I ended up finding a book recently called The Inner Work of Racial Justice by Rhonda McGee, which takes a mindfulness approach to racial justice. And so Dr. McGee offers a very wonderful practical method of mindfulness that she calls color insight. So for our time together today, I want us to take us through her program a little bit, kind of a very shallow surface approach to what she outlines in her book, but we only have a few minutes, so we'll just kind of hit the highlights here, and I'll summarize it as best I can as we go through. And it seeks to inform this question of contemplation versus action. And as with all lists and methods, I have to say this out loud in a linear fashion, but of course, as we go through it in real life on our own individual spiritual journeys, it folds in on each other, builds on each other. So each step is not one after the other, but it all kind of comes in a helix, folding back in on itself. Sometimes one thing is more important and other times something else. So to begin with, let's start with engaging the body. So this is kind of what we did during our meditation time this morning, where we just did a quick body scan. And there are many different versions and variations of doing this kind of meditation. And it's also can be a part of a movement meditation, whether it's yoga or walking meditation as well. So many different versions. But the basic idea is to just notice what is going on in your body in that moment. And as you continue to practice that, you begin to become aware of when your body is tense. It's always in my shoulders for me. And when your body is tight in some part, when the butterflies kick in or the lump in the throat kicks in. And so this is just a practice to re-engage with the body and to become aware of what your body is trying to tell you in any one moment. And as you continue to practice, you start to wonder, where did those butterflies come from? What triggered in my mind or in my memory or with the person sitting in front of me in this moment? What caused that and what's underneath that action in the body? And so you just start to become more aware and get more curious about what's going on. And so that's the first thing, just to re-engage with the body and with your senses. And so the next step is what we encountered in our opening hymn today, loving kindness meditation. And so again, loving kindness meditation can happen anytime, anywhere. You can do it as a separate practice where you're actually sitting and saying those phrases that we heard in the hymn. May I be happy, may you be at ease, may we be free from suffering, and on and on. And so this practice can be done in many different ways. The basic traditional practice is where you start with yourself, you move on to someone who is easy to love, easy to offer these phrases of loving kindness to. Then you move on to someone neutral, like the grocery clerk or anyone else that's just kind of that you encounter during your day. And then moving on to someone more difficult, someone who rubs you the wrong way, or who you rub them the wrong way, or someone who has hurt you in some way. And so that's where it gets more challenging. And then we move on from there, always increasing our circle of care and compassion to those that we don't know, those down the street, those a world away, just any group of people to increase our circle of care and compassion. And as we continue this work in whether it's racial justice or any other justice work, we encounter difficulties and challenges where we are triggered, we are activated. Difficult conversation comes up and we get that fear or anger response in our body. And based on our previous practice, we are aware more now of that response in our body. And so loving kindness meditation is that opportunity to reflect, to step back, offer ourselves compassion for the difficult work that we're entering into, offer ourselves that opportunity to rest and recharge, and to offer ourselves that loving and kindness aspect that is so important to this work, so that we can then offer it to others as we venture out into the community. And so now, with that grounding in place, that re-engagement with the body, that loving kindness for ourselves and for others, we come now to some more, maybe more challenging mindfulness practices where we are engaged in more reflective questions like I had at the end of our meditation time earlier, where we are actively reflecting on our skin tone, asking those kind of difficult questions that we don't often take the time to ask ourselves and to investigate. And so when things come up, there are a couple of practices that help when things do arise in our bodies or in our minds or in our feelings. One of those that you can use in the moment when something just comes up and kind of surprises you, one is the STOP method. Maybe you've heard of it. It's an acronym for S for stop, so actually stop what you're doing in that moment. Maybe you are, maybe no one else knows that you're stopping, but internally you stop. Then T for take a conscious breath, like we did at the beginning of our service today. So just take that 1 or 2 deep breaths just to have that moment of pause. And the next is to observe, the O for observe. Just what is arising? What is it that's coming up? What's the sensation you're feeling in your body? What is underneath that? Is it anger? Is it fear? Is it surprise? Is it boredom? Whatever it is, just observe that. And then the 4th P, proceed. Then with the wisdom and the empathy and the awareness gained in the first 3 steps, you proceed hopefully with a little more wisdom, a little more response versus a reaction. Now, broadening that when you're actually in a practice, not in the heat of the moment, for example, there's another acronym called RAIN. And so it's kind of similar. The R for recognize, so recognizing what's has come up for you, recognizing something that maybe has come up with someone else that you're in the room with. The next is accepting, and so it is accepting in regards to this is what's coming up for me. I'm not judging that it's good or bad or anything else. I'm just accepting that this is what's happening right in this moment, either within myself or within the environment. And so just accepting what is in that moment. And then the I is for investigate, again, similar to the observe. So just investigate what is coming up for you, what's going on, what's underneath, what's coming up for you in your body. And all the while that this is going on, we're growing in awareness, in empathy, in wisdom. And then the N is for non-identification. And this is just the opportunity to, whatever has come up for you in the first 3 steps, to just let that go as much as possible, to let it go, to not cling to it, to not let it run away with you. And so just to let that go without judgment. It's, again, not good or bad. It's just, this is what's happening, and let that go. Non-attachment, non-identification. And so some other kind of reflection questions that you can add to your mindfulness practice that Dr. McGee offers us are some of the more challenging things. So we talked about one already with the skin and skin tone. Another one is reflecting on your heritage, where your ancestors called home, how they ended up being in this country, what are the stories that go along with that journey, what are the pieces that are hidden or never talked about. And so as you reflect on those questions within a mindfulness practice, things come up, and so you may have to pause for that loving kindness meditation, for that just body scan, and to see what's happening, that rain practice, that stop practice. Another one that I came across in Dr. McGee's book that really kind of activated my butterflies was, imagine talking about race in a group of people, and just that prompt really started the butterflies going for me. And so she kind of extends that, and think about what if you were in a group of familiars, of people who are in your comfortable circle to begin with. How does that conversation go? And now think about being in a mixed group of strangers, or people with from other racial groups or gender groups or whatever it is. How does that conversation go, and what are the feelings coming up for you around that? And so just on and on, kind of opportunities to reflect on those questions, and kind of prepare you for then moving out into the world and doing it for real, in real life. And so then that is the next step. The next step is to go out into the world and join in community, so mindful community. And so again, what we try to do here at Horizon, especially in our Soul Matters groups, for example, where we have a covenant of being together, where we are trying to create a safer space, or hopefully a brave space, where we can have interesting conversations. Soul Matters is not really set up for conversations, but it is an opportunity to be present for another and listen deeply to their experience for whatever the theme is. And one of the focuses this year coming up, and has been for the last year or two actually, is more and more resources towards racial justice to reflect on and to look into. So that will be one of my intentions in this year coming up, is to focus on that part of the monthly packets is for the pieces of racial justice. So I'm looking forward to that, and engaging in some of these practices to be aware of what comes up for me as I reflect on those. And then also other groups here at Horizon, the Faith in Texas group, the UU the Vote group, and just being on a board or one of the committees, for example. We are in community and in groups with other people. And so Faith in Texas, joining in community with lots of people around Carrollton or the surrounding area in the work that they do. And so these practices can help inform and guide and base, ground that group of people in loving kindness and awareness and wisdom. And so these practices help as we engage into the world. And then we come to actual mindful action, which we've been talking about all along, actually. And so this gets to the question of what is ours to do, what is mine to do. And so that is where, as we go through these steps, we begin to kind of narrow down what is ours to do. And actually, as I reflect on this process, I think the question itself is sort of an illusion. That when I reflect on that question and see what comes up for me, I realize, I think that question is just a dodge. It's a reaction for me dealing with my discomfort with the fear that comes up with trying to think of what will I do out in the world, what will be my gift, my action in the world, and dealing with my discomfort of the unknown, of not knowing what that's going to look like, or what's going to happen when I do engage with someone else out in the world, or even in the Soul Matters group here at Horizon. So I think the the question itself is rather an illusion, and there's a lot underneath that. And so I found that as I've gone through this practice a little bit over the last couple of weeks from Dr. McGee, that as I do some of these practices, I realize I'm aware more of what I already do, like preaching this sermon for one, and as I said, leading and being a part of the Soul Matters groups. And I am aware of the opportunities that the small invitations that I get along the way, like the invitation to reflect more on racial themes during this coming year of Soul Matters. And then I'm also aware of the way kind of opening in front of me, that if I remain open to the kernel of faith that I feel, that as I intentionally engage into this practice, that more will be revealed to me in time, that if I just keep moving forward, and then the way forward will open up and become clearer and clearer as I go along. In any one moment, it may not be clear at all. And so part of this practice for me is also being more comfortable in that place of not knowing and going forward into the unknown. I still have a long way to go, but it's getting a little easier each time. And so that is kind of the summary of the practice. It obviously Dr. McGee goes into a lot more detail, and I really encourage you to check it out. Another book that I kind of landed on was Mindful of Race by Ruth King. I didn't get to that one, but I encourage you to check that one out as well. They're really good to kind of tie in together these two seemingly opposites of contemplation and action. And it turns out that I think contemplation and action are really two sides of the same coin. They inform each other, they help each other, ground each other, and as we heard in our reading today, I honestly don't think you can do one without the other, and do it with integrity and wholeness and loving kindness and nonviolence as we go out into the world. And so as we've walked through these, I hope that you can see how they do kind of fold all into each other and build onto each other. And in any moment we might find our focus has to be engaging with the body in loving kindness, and in the next moment engaging out in the community and into our mindful action in the world, and vice versa. And so it goes back and forth. And so we come back to our original question that Reverend Laura resolved for us 6 weeks ago. Am I enough? Is what I do in the world enough? And of course, my stubborn streak, I had to try it out for myself. And, maybe you have to try it out for yourself. And so as I went through this process, I come to realize that yes, I am enough. And what I do in the world is enough. There's always more to do. And as I continue this process, invitations continue to come to be engaged in the world. And so I have to reflect on those and figure out what is mine to do. But what I am doing is enough. And, plus what I'm doing now won't be what I'm doing in a month or a year. It'll always be evolving. And so the plan for me is to keep moving in faith and surrender, and the way forward will continue to unfold. And so I leave you with a couple of quotes, one from Dr. McGee to have almost the last word for us. So justice begins with our daily practice of coming home to our senses in the present moment, bringing love to work with others to change harmful systems, and pushing the refresh button to begin again. And then finally, from Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, I offer this. There is a lot that needs to be done in society. Work against war, social justice, and so on. But first we have to come back to our own territory and make sure that peace and harmony are reigning there. Until we do that, we cannot do anything for society. Let us begin immediately. So may it be, and amen. We extinguish our flame, but not our commitment to our mission. To welcome radically, to love boldly, to grow spiritually, and to serve courageously. We carry this commitment in our hearts until we are together again. And before our final blessing, let us pause once more to breathe in peace and to breathe out love as we join together in our closing hymn.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out.
Our final blessing today is from James Morrison. Within each of our hearts there is a most glorious light. Go forth and let its spark help you understand what troubles both you and others. Go forth and let its light of reason be a guide in your decisions. Go forth and bring its ray of hope to those in need, in both body and spirit, that they may find healing. Go forth and fan the flames of passion to help heal our world. Go forth and spread the warm glow of love, pushing back the darkness of the world. Go forth and share your glorious light with the world. So may it be. Go now in peace, and amen.